Okay, so shalom everyone. Here I can stop sharing the screen for a second so you can just see my face for just one moment. So hi everyone. My name is Yaakov, and I'm not going to start giving you all my background because I have 29 minutes to give you something that usually takes at least an hour. So I'll just say a word about myself and let's get going. I'm a retired major. I'm a major in the Israeli Defense Forces. I left the army 3.5 years ago after almost a decade in uniform. I served in a tank unit called the 188 Armored Brigade, and I still serve in the unit, both in a combat position, combat operations officer, and as the unit's motivational speaker. I speak with every unit uh, of every company in the unit, all the soldiers in the unit to give motivational talks for me. I also speak with other units, and I actually also speak with Israeli teenagers before they drafted to the IDF. One of the most effective tools I've found in the last 3.5 years to motivate soldiers, and by the way, this is something I understood also during my long service, is to connect them to the stories of the past, to connect them to battles that happened before them. And I realized when you do it the right way, then it's something that really makes them feel important, makes them feel part of something bigger, and it's something that really inspires them. So that's just a word about myself. And what I want to talk about is one of the most amazing stories that I've found that motivate them, and one of the most incredible sites which I meet soldiers on ground. When units come to the Golan Heights, they come to me. So I'm going to talk about the Battle of Tel SAKI. Tel SAKI is located in the Golan Heights, where I live, where I also served. The 188 Armored Brigade, my unit, is located in the Golan Heights. And just to put people on the map where we are, because I've told this story hundreds of times in the field, but never on Zoom, I must say. So if we look at the map of Israel, here's the Golan Heights, bordering right with the country I'm assuming a few of you are familiar with, Syria. And when we look at the Golan Heights, so we can see the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee, we can see the high grounds of the Golan and how they control northern Israel. I want you to notice the border itself. If you look at the border itself, you see the border was set here in 1967 on a chain of mountains. This chain of mountains, which we'll see in a second also what they actually look like, give us strategic control of both sides of the border, Israel and Syria. If I put the map, if I'm now a commander standing here, looking east into Syria, this is what it looks like. I have this chain of mountains. Now, it starts from Mount Hermon up in the north by the border with Lebanon and Syria, and it goes down to the Jordan River right here. The last mountain in the chain is Tel SAKI, which is where the most amazing story in the history of the Israeli Defense Forces happened. And I have about 20 minutes to convince you that this is the most amazing story. So let's take a look at what Tel SAKI, what this mountain looks like. So we're looking now towards east. This is Tel SAKI, and everything behind it is already Syria. You can see on the top of the hill, there's a huge military complex. This is a bunker that was built after the 1973 Yom Kippur War, which we're going to discuss soon. Now we can see the bunker from above. We can see Syria. This is all Syria. All SYs can say hi. The border is right here. And this is our battlegrounds. This is where we're going to discuss our story. Before I start talking about the story, which happens on the Yom Kippur War in October 1973, let's understand what are we seeing here. So I spoke about this huge bunker, this huge military complex that was built after the 1973 war. This whole level, I can say, of the hill wasn't here. The hill, the actual hill, ended here in 1973. At this spot here, there was a much, much smaller bunker on top of the hill, which we'll see closer soon, which happens to be this little spot here. This little room is the bunker in 1973, not this huge military complex. What else do we see? Remember, we're talking about the chain of mountains. So if I go back for a second, remember the chain of mountains, I'm at the southern tip. When I'm going forward now, So you can see the next mountain is here, Tel Fares, and then you can see the chain of mountains continues. Between this mountain here, Tel Fares, to Tel Saki, there are 4 miles. And this is actually the widest, I can say, gap or valley between mountains in the Golan Heights. In the northern part of the Golan Heights, the landscape is a bit different, and between each mountain, you have a couple hundreds of meters. So it's very easy to protect. This is the IDF's weakest spot. We call it the soft stomach of the Golan Heights when we're talking about protecting this region. Now, one more spot I want to show you. If you see this dot here, it says 116 tanks. There's an outpost here where there were 3 tanks when the war began. So we have the valley, we have the mountains, and we have Tel Saki with the bunker. Now, let's put aside the big strategic picture. And what I want us to do is relive this incredible story through personal stories. Now, it's a bit challenging because we're on Zoom, but I'm going to still ask you to try noticing every little detail I'm sharing with you, because this story, what's so amazing about it is that it's a puzzle. Every little piece I'm going to give you, every little detail of every little piece of information is going to be crucial for the rest of the story. If you want to understand why the story is so amazing, you don't want to miss this. So 1973, let's meet 2 young friends. The first friend I want us to meet is Lieutenant Yoav. Lieutenant Yoav is a commander in the 188 Brigade. For those who are with me from the beginning, that's my unit. By the way, the best unit in the whole Israeli Defense Forces, totally unbiased, of course. And I'm sure we all agree that Yoav is, that the 188 is the best team. I want to say that Yoav was the best commander in 1973. And why am I saying this to you? Because what I have here in back of me, you see this is my working clothes, my regular military working clothes. And this is what soldiers call it. It's called the Madei bet clothes, okay? But when I want to go into the tank, I don't wear this this material that can get burnt. I actually have a special jumpsuit, which it's a full body jumpsuit. It's made of a special material, and that's what we use for our tanks. There's one more unit in the Israeli Defense Forces that uses these jumpsuits, and that is the Israeli Air Force. Since they are much, much richer than us, they get much, much nicer suits. Their color is blue because that's the color of the Air Force. And I would say the best thing about these suits is that there's a special place, a special tube where you can connect an air conditioner tube and cool down your body. So every good tankist finds a way to get a pilot suit. God forbid, I'm not going to encourage anyone to steal. I'll just tell you that till today, I still have a pilot suit. I'm not going to show it here because then you can blackmail me. But till today, I have a pilot suit. It's just the best. You know, I borrowed it. Back in 1973, you don't have to borrow these nice Air Force suits. There's actually a law in the Armored Corps. If you will win the award for being the best team in your unit, you'll get pilot suits for your whole team. What's the logic behind it? Remember, the color is blue. When I'm walking around the base with my blue pilot suit, what does everyone know? That I'm the best. Everyone looks up to me. Everyone wants to win that award. And so Yoav's team, remember, we're in 1973 now, Lieutenant Yoav has the best team. So they win the award, and they are located at the map where I show you where it says 116. So that's Lieutenant Yoav. I hope you guys are with me so far. Now let's move on to our next friend, and that is Lieutenant Menachem. Lieutenant Yoav is here in 116. Let's move on to Tel Saki. Okay, now we're looking at the region from Tel Saki, and let's meet our second friend, Lieutenant Menachem of the paratroopers. It's very, very important to give credit to everyone. So Menachem is not from the 188, he's from the paratroopers. Menachem you can already hear by the name, is a religious and observant commander, Dati, and he comes here with 5 soldiers on a lookout mission. Their job is to look into Syria and report if there are any SYs coming at them. And if they're coming at them, then he has to warn the whole team and, of course, start using, bringing the artillery, Air Force, whoever needs to knock them down. Now, remember, it's Yom Kippur. It's the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. And I didn't give a whole background to the war because I wanted to make it very short and effective, but I'll just say Egypt and Syria attacked Israel simultaneously on Shabbat, October 6, 1973, and it was a total surprise. No one was expecting war. The intelligence was sure it's fake. They're just messing around with us, bringing troops by the border. So they were very shocked. But in the hours before the war, no one understand what's coming at them. So when Menachem is sent here on the lookout mission, he tells his soldiers, guys, listen, I'm going to pray, right? It's the holy day. I'm going to go pray. And he says, you guys, you see this little bunker there? There's a few bunk beds in there. You guys can go to sleep in there. Good luck. And he's standing outside of the bunker. He's praying. And at 2 p.m., hell is unleashed. Thousands and thousands of rockets are shot all over the Golan Heights. For those who know the stories from 1973, so I'll just say that those who know the stories, it's a known thing that the ratios of Syrians versus Israelis were just unbearable or unbelievable. We're talking about total of 177 Israeli tanks all over the Golan Heights, facing 1,400 Syrian tanks. That's 15 Syrian tanks for every Israeli tank. Every Israeli soldier in the Golan Heights has 100 Syrians coming at him. There's artillery, Air Force, we're totally outnumbered. The craziest place, the craziest ratio is at Tel SAKI. If you noticed, I mentioned 3 tanks and 6 paratroopers. There's a whole Syrian division coming at them. That would be 130 tanks in the front line. Okay, 130 tanks in the front line and thousands of Syrian soldiers. I asked one of the guys who survived the battle, what was it like? He said to me, you see the skyline here of Syria? He says, imagine that instead of seeing houses and trees there, all you see is tanks driving at you. The whole skyline is tanks driving and shooting at us. To make a long story short, when I told you Yoav's guys were the best, I really meant it. They were the best of the best. For the first few hours of the war, not one Syrian gets past the border. 3 tanks destroy over 50 Syrian tanks, and the soldiers, the paratroopers with their machine guns, they're holding back the Syrians. Not one gets past the border. Remember, this is the hardest place to protect in the Golan Heights. The changing point in the battle is the night. At night, with the darkness, our soldiers unfortunately are not ready for war. They're not equipped properly. And the Syrians use their advantage with the great night vision they get from the Russians, and they invade Israel. And they're starting to get closer and closer to the hill, and they're controlling the road. I'm going to show you now a picture. They're controlling the road that leads to this hill. So this road here now is controlled by Syrian troops. Syrian troops are here, but the even more crucial thing that happens in the battle is that Yoav is down to the last rockets, to the last shells in his tanks. Just try thinking what Yoav's commander feels like when this young, dedicated lieutenant gets on the radio line and says, sir, I have only 6 rockets left, and then I have nothing to shoot at the Syrians. What do I do? Yoav had, I can tell you a little secret, Yoav had the option of driving back a mile or 2 behind and refilling himself with ammunition. He decided to stay in place without getting the order. He decided to stay here in his positions and continue, basically, I would say, fighting the Syrians with nothing to shoot, not just because of the land, IDF, Israel Defense Forces. Yes, he needs to defend the land, but there's one more thing that for him is maybe even more important than the land, and that is called friendship, the friends, the comrades. In Outpost 116 here, there are a few paratroopers. In Tel SAKI here, there's Menachem and his paratroopers. And Yoav realizes that if he drives back, He will save himself, and he'll probably also be able to beat the Syrians later. He'll bring more tanks, reinforcements. But if he goes back, these guys are dead. They have no chance. He stays in place, and he pays with his own life for this decision. He is killed. When he is killed, his sergeant, his deputy, Neil, steps up. He takes command of the three tanks. At this point, you need to understand the whole region is now flooded with Syrians. And these three tanks literally drive through the field, through Syrian troops, and reach Tel SAKI. What happens now is that all along the night, the paratroopers and their tankists, it's face-to-face battles. They're trying to push back the Syrians, holding onto this hill, and they're calling for help. They call for help, and of course, the first thing, right when the war began, the first people they call, right, when we guys on ground are in trouble, who do we call up there in the sky? So I'm sure some of the rabbis who spoke before me will say God, but I'll say the Air Force as a military person. And an Israeli jet fighter is sent to Tel SAKI. The Syrians knock it down just over 116. The pilot, by the way, his name is Yaakov, drops out of his airplane and runs away for his life. By the way, like a good Israeli, he hitchhikes. He sees a few jeeps that are full of like all these cooks and people who are being evacuated from the region when the war breaks out, and he saves himself. So Air Force can't help. That failed. 3 different rescue attempts are made along the night. All 3 fail. The Syrians intercept each and every one of them. Many, many soldiers are killed. Close to 30 soldiers are killed trying to rescue their besieged friends. Some of them make it to Tel SAKI, but these soldiers are now all injured, all PTSD. They can't help. To sum it all up, Sunday morning, October 7, 11th of Tishrei, 1973, the sun rises, and this is what Menachem sees from Tel SAKI. The valley right here under him is full with hundreds and hundreds of Syrian armored vehicles. He looks in back of him to the road in back of him, and he sees Syrian tanks are passing him, meaning he's surrounded, he's besieged now. Syrian foot soldiers, infantry soldiers are trying to climb up the hill, and he's shooting them down with his machine gun. But he notices he's shooting the last bullets. He's out of ammunition. He has a bunch of injured people from the different reinforcements that failed. He has a bunch of casualties, right? Dozens and dozens of people were killed trying to rescue him. The Air Force can't help. No one can help him. He lost the battle. What do you do when you lose? So either surrender. The Syrians, as you'll hear very soon, don't take prisoners. Or the second thing you can do is retreat. You pull back. One little problem, you're surrounded. There's only one place left to go. And if you remember the bunker, then this is it. So I want you guys to follow me into the bunker. This is a picture taken 26 years after the war. This is what the bunker looked like during the war, or I would say after it began because the walls were full. Here's what it looks like inside. We're talking about 3 meters by 4. And maybe to make it easier for you, then here is me talking to a group inside the bunker. And you can understand how small it is. There are 3 bunk beds in here, 1, 2, and 3. And if we would all be standing now in the field, and I would ask you how many people can fit into this little bunker, you'd probably say to me 10, 6, something like that. Well, 28 soldiers come in here. You have here about 15. You can understand how squishy it is by now. 28 soldiers are in this little space. To make it more exact, it's really 25. 3 of them are not alive anymore. 25 soldiers alive, mostly wounded, no food, no water, no ammunition. And the Syrians come up the hill and they surround the bunker. You take a wild guess and you would say to me that it took the Syrians between 5 seconds to 5 minutes to kill everyone in here, right? We're talking about Syrian tanks, artillery, rockets, missiles, grenades. Choose what you want, knock it down, it's over. My friends, all 25 guys survived in this little room for 36 hours until they were rescued by Israeli troops. Tomorrow at this time, I'm going to be hosting a program where we're gonna have a memorial evening with all of the survivors on Zoom. So you'll have to believe me that I'm not just BSing you, I'm not sketching. The guys survived it. 25 soldiers in here survive it. Now you want to ask me how? So I'll try giving you a logical answer, even though it's a little bit hard. What I want to do is just share with you a crazy story, a crazier story, and the craziest story you'll ever hear. So you get a taste of how nuts what's happening in the bunker is. So I want to start with going into the bunker. The soldiers withdraw, pull back into the bunker, right? Everything is dark in there. The walls are closed, of course, and there are tunnels that are leading into the bunker. You can't see that in the picture. And Menachem takes out a book of Tehillim, of Psalms, and he reads out, Shira ma'alot mima'amakim kraticha Hashem. God, I call you from the depth. And he says to the guys, when the war ends, we're throwing a chafla, a party in my parents' home because we are going to survive. Guys are looking at him, what is this guy talking about? Where's he coming from? But you know what? They laugh, they smile, it cheers them up. 2 minutes later, Syrian soldiers are standing at their entrance to the bunker. They're shooting inside, they're throwing grenades, and Menachem whispers to everyone, he says, guys, never mind, we're going to die. At least when we die, let's try killing as many Syrians as possible. So I hope you guys see me on the screen. Can everyone just nod with your head if you see me? I see some of you. Okay, great. This is a grenade. It's a toy. Don't worry. Okay. And I'm on Zoom. So even if it blows up and it's real, I'm gone. You're fine. What locks the grenade is this little pin here. Okay. When you want the grenade to explode, you pull out the pin. You hold on very, very tightly. The moment you throw it, this thing opens. And then you have 3 seconds and boom. I can tell you the moments between pulling out the pin to the moment you throw it. It feels like forever, as the one who's thrown a few grenades in his service. Menachem takes out the grenades. He says, everyone take out your personal grenades, throw out the pin, and hold on tightly. When they come in, we let go. We die, they die. It's over. Just imagine what they feel like. Try imagining, close your eyes and imagine 6, 7 guys, the only ones who can hold on to it, are sitting like this waiting to die. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The Syrians not only don't come in, they leave. And at some point, Menachem says, okay, guys, I think we're good for now. Everyone, please pick up your pin and relock your grenade. Everyone follows the order, aside from one guy that can't find the pin. I lost it. What do? So you can hold on to the grenade, except you haven't slept for 24 hours. If I'll ask you guys, would you trust one of your children to hold on to this grenade after a day without sleep? You'd say, hell no, right? Another option is throw the grenade outside, get rid of it, except the Syrians who are leaving apparently will turn around and understand they missed someone. Menachem needs to improvise. He needs to find a creative solution, and he finds it. Remember, I told you every little detail is important. I didn't tell you how old Menachem was. By the way, 21. I didn't tell you where he is from in Israel. Jerusalem, by the way. I told you one fact about him. He's religious. He has this on his head. Unlike me, he doesn't need the double-sided tape I use with my bald hair. He still has hair left. He has a bobby pin, okay, a clip for his kippah. Takes off the sikah, the kippah clip, locks his grenade. It's good. I asked him a few months ago when we had a program together, I said, Menachem, is the myth true, the kippah clip story? He says it's true, but it's not a good recipe for a long life. Don't try it at home. So that's the grenade. That's the crazy story. I want to move on since I have just a few minutes left. I'll say that a few minutes later, another Syrian unit is coming by the bunker, and under the pressure, grenades are thrown into the bunker. Menachem himself is hit. He's injured. And moments before he fades out, moments before he faints, he says, if there's any soldier who can stand on his feet, he should go out of the bunker, hand himself into the Syrians, and tell them everyone is dead. He's the only one who's alive. Only one guy can stand on his feet. His name is Isaac. Yitzchak. Isaac says, I'll do it. And he walks out. Who is this Isaac? Isaac is a tank crew member from Yoav's team, from the 188. If you remember the 3 original tanks that were at SAKI when the war began, before the reinforcements and everything, Isaac walks out. To make a long story short, he is shot. Everyone hears him being shot. Everyone hears him screaming. And then the Syrians leave, meaning he succeeded in the mission, except he paid with his own life for this. From this point on, no one's going to go out. The Syrians don't take prisoners. 5 months later, It's, I'm blanking on the name of the series. It's Homeland. The Israeli intelligence gets a picture of a soldier who's held in Syria who no one knows about. And after some research they do, they realize this is Isaac. Isaac is alive in Damascus, Syria. Now, how can it be? People saw him. People know he's dead. So if you recall, when Menachem is calling for help, when the war begins, a Israeli jet fighter comes, the pilot, right? Remember, the plane is hit, the pilot parachutes out, hitchhikes, runs away for his life. The Syrians see this. And the Syrians see and know there's an Israeli pilot hiding somewhere in the fields around Tel SAKI. They give an order to their units. And they say the unit that will catch the Israeli pilot and will bring him alive will receive glory and a special award, because Israeli pilots are the best of the best. You don't kill a pilot. And everyone is searching in these fields for a pilot. And suddenly, out of a little room, just near where the pilot was hit, walks out an Israeli soldier. What is this soldier wearing? He's wearing a blue pilot suit because he's from the best team in the 188. He won it by law, right? That's the law. He's the best. And the Syrians start shooting him and hit him in the leg, but then they stop because they say, this is the pilot. This is what saves Isaac. And Isaac spent 8 months in prison in Syria, and then he was brought back to Israel in a deal. And today he lives in the Golan, in the same exact place where he almost lost his life. He built his life. And by the way, he named his firstborn son Yoav after his beloved commander. One last crazy dilemma, because we said crazy, crazy on craziest, and then I want to say a few sentences about the memory as we approach Yom HaZikaron. So I'll just say that in the second day, Menachem faces what I call the worst dilemma, the toughest moment in the battle, where another Syrian unit comes. He whispers to the soldiers, he says, everyone keep yourself quiet, and then the Syrians will just leave and won't suspect anyone's here. There's a soldier who lost his hearing. He has no idea what's happening around him from all the explosions. And this soldier at that crucial moment, Murphy Law, starts screaming for water. And under the pressure, Menachem makes a call to choke the soldier to death. And there's a soldier that starts doing it, and then another guy has an idea. Takes out a box of cigarettes. He takes out a used match and he scrapes on the box and writes, the Syrians are here, there is no water, you must be quiet. And he lights the match and the soldiers quiet at the end of the war. First thing you can learn from this whole story is that you should always have a kippah and a box of cigarettes on you. But seriously, I'll say that when I speak with soldiers there, I always say to them, guys, you know, in the army, we're very tough. We have this discipline and everything. Why is this? What do we teach our soldiers? We teach them to follow the dumbest orders possible. So when they're under fire, they'll obey their commander no matter what. They're not going to question him. You have here a soldier who got an order under fire and disobeyed his commander. What did the IDF do to this soldier? He got one of the highest medals possible for a soldier. There's a message to the soldiers, and it's not refuse the orders, do whatever you want. The message is that you need to use your brain. And it's not just for the army. I always say the army is the best school for life. It's to your boss, it's anyone you can think about it. Sometimes the younger ones, the less experienced ones underestimate themselves and don't use their brains. They just do what they're told. This soldier listens to his commander and says, 1 second, there's pressure here, let's think it through. What is Menachem trying to say to me? If Menachem wasn't shot in his chest, Menachem would be saying, sir, please be quiet. He's trying to get quiet, not death. So he gives Menachem the quiet he needs, and he saves his friend's life. The soldiers were rescued after 36 hours. For the next 30 years, they don't meet. Why? They're ashamed of themselves. They're the ones who lost the battle, right? IDF, Israel Defense Forces, the Syrians got through them. 30 years later, a research comes out. The research shows something very interesting, which will explain to you maybe why the Syrians didn't destroy the bunker. The Syrian goal is to conquer all of the Golan Heights, this whole region, within less than a day. And in this spot here at Tel SAKI, they need 12 hours to reach the Sea of Galilee. Okay? Why is the time factor so crucial? It's Yom Kippur. The Israelis are at home fasting. It will take Israel at least a day to gather the soldiers, put them in uniform, give them guns, give them tanks, and drive up to the Golan. By the time they come up here, it's over. Now we're 24 hours into the war, not 12 hours. Remember, that's 24 hours into the war. This is where the Syrians are. We can see Syria right now, right? They're less than a mile into Israel, meaning several Israeli soldiers and several Israeli tanks screwed up the whole Syrian strategic plan. This is all backed up by research with papers of the Syrian plan. And now that there's validation, that there's a meaning to what their sacrifice, to what they went through, they're ready to meet. What you see here, here's Menachem right here. This is Isaac right here. And this is the reunion 30 years later. Ever since, I want to end with saying that there's a reunion twice a year. Once is Yom HaZikaron, and unfortunately, tomorrow, in 2 days, we won't be able to carry it out because of the situation. So that is one time. And the second time is what you see in front of you. On the 12th of Tishrei, Yudbet of Tishrei, 2 days after the war began, 36 hours in the bunker, right? The day they were reborn, the day they were liberated from the bunker is when they all come here. This is what you're seeing here. Them and their families, they're all here. They have a short ceremony and then they go to party, literally party. I'm talking about wine, I'm talking about cakes, I'm talking about guitars, there's music. But before you go to party, there's a short ceremony saluting those who fell in the battle, and they put up the flag. This is one of the largest flags in Israel. And this flag, I must tell you, is something very impressive, but it's also a drama factory. It keeps on ripping from the wind. It keeps on dropping down. I had the privilege last year to put it back up, to replace a flag with the group of I Lead, which maybe some of you were on. We put it up. It was very, very moving. And what I want to end with is a message I got from one of the soldiers about this flag. Last summer, the flag fell down. Something went wrong in the top of the mast, and there was no flag for a couple of weeks. And I couldn't find a crane that will bring me just high enough to fix whatever was needed to put up the flag. And at some point, you know, the one of the veterans keeps on calling me and calling me. I'm responsible for the flag today. If I didn't mention that, I'm the fighters representative on site. And at some point, I mean, the guy's not leaving me alone. It's high season of tourism, right? July, August, sounds like history now with the upcoming summer. And he keeps on saying, what's with the flag? What's with the flag? And then I said to him, listen, let's think about this flag the Jewish way. This flag, you can even see here, it's ripped, right? The flag keeps on ripping. And each flag is $1,000. So I said to this guy, every day the flag is down, is a day you're saving money, right? So I said to him, listen, give it just a few more days, you know, high season will go down, I'll find time, I'll find a crane, I'll go up there, I'll fix it. And he said to me, his answer to me to what I just suggested was amazing, and I want to end with that. He said to me, Yaakov, after everything we went through, he says to me, we saw death. We saw our best friends die in front of us. We paid mentally and physically prices, right? We were injured. We were mentally injured, right? They're all PTSD. He said we had every legitimate reason to let go of life, to just drop it. But we made a strategic choice, each and every one of us. What's the choice we made? Life. We chose to continue, to rebuild our lives, to build homes, to get married, to have children, to have grandchildren. That's our message. The hill, Tel SAKI, is not a hill of death. It's a hill of life. Now, if someone comes to this, he says to me, if someone comes here to this complex, to this hill, and there's no flag, what does he see? He sees this. He sees a bunch of young people who died, and he gets depressed. He says, wow, this is a place of death. Oh, what a shame. So many young people died, and he leaves. That's how he leaves. Because there's no flag. There's just no hope. You just see death. But when you see this amazing flag, he says to me, then you salute the dead and you appreciate their sacrifice, but you remember there's purpose. There's you know, you paid, freedom has a price. But now what the question is, what are you doing with this? Are you just going to say, okay, people died here, or are you going to try making the price worth it? When you come to Tel SAKI, and I see some of the faces there were at Tel SAKI with me, the first selfie you'll take is going to be with this flag. It is so impressive. It's Am Yisrael Chai sticking in your face. And that's the message. And when we enter now Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, I must say this is not a message just of Tel SAKI. This is the Jewish way. This is the Israeli way. Freedom has a price. You pay the price, you fall down, you crash, you struggle, it's painful, it hurts, but then you get back on your feet and you continue because there's just no other choice. So when we enter Yom HaZikaron, what I want to end with saying to you is that I hope we all have a meaningful Yom HaZikaron. And I always say to people that when we tell the stories of the dead, it's not because we want to be sad and remember how they died. It's because we want to remember how they lived. If these people were willing to give their life for us, for people of Israel and the whole Jewish nation, they were probably very special people. Our job is to learn about how they lived, take something from the light of their life, from their values, the values that they lived for, the values that they were willing to die for, and try bringing a little bit of it into our daily lives and make the price worth it. So I hope that this session was enjoyable and meaningful for you all. And I really hope to see you guys all in Eretz Israel as soon as possible and that you all stay healthy.